Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and it is conference championship week, right? That I don't know.
Way to screw it up.
All right, it's championship week, NFC, AFC. We're going to talk about this week, but this is a Washington football team show, so I think we got to talk Washington football team stuff first because in Washington there's been a major change in leadership, and that is a big deal here. And no, I'm not talking about the White House. We're, of course, going to talk about the GM role here with the football team. They haven't had the press conference yet, guys, but it's been more or less confirmed by every major reporter. They're bringing in Marty Hurney and Martin Mayhew to kind of both take on the GM role as like GM and assistant to the GM. So, we're not getting one leader, we're getting two leaders. Whereas before we had 0 GMs. So it's going to be an interesting situation. Jamal, Steve, you guys are here with me. Steve, you always talk about the business of sports. It's your favorite thing. So I'm actually going to open with you and ask you about your thoughts on bringing in 2 GMs.
Okay. Number one, this is totally unrelated and off topic, but we've got a pretty cool interview next week. I don't want to say who it is.
Yeah, we can't talk about who.
Because, we won't want to jinx it, but we do have a really cool interview, so stay tuned for next week. In terms of this, look, I think what I said before on this, my thought hasn't changed. Ron Rivera was in charge. He isn't currently in charge, and he's going to be in charge. So what we're really talking about here is bringing in 2 sort of senior-level executives to split up the tasks in the football administration area, because you've got a bunch of different things, okay? This is not just picking players. You have a guy who's the head player picker. He's the director of player personnel. Under that, you've got a college picker guy. And
a college picker
guy.
Of
college personnel. Yeah, and then you have a pro picker guy, and that's the director of pro player personnel. So, but you've got football administration. They do the salary cap.
Right.
They do a bunch of stuff with the NFL, the league office every single day. You've got people that need to manage travel, equipment, stadium stuff, all kinds of stuff. And that is what the burden that they're trying to, lift off of Ron Rivera's shoulders. So the idea of bringing in Marty Hurney and Martin Mayhew both, it wasn't really clear. I mean, you guys are on Twitter. I don't follow it anymore, but it wasn't clear from what I read really what Mayhew's job is going to be particularly. So it kind of makes me wonder if Kyle Smith is going to leave, but that's just me. I would think Mayhew would be more on the player picker type side, maybe, but so my thought is it's sure great. I don't think it's going to make a big difference from a public perception standpoint.
I don't think it will either. I think, and I hate to generalize, but I think situations like this is also similar to us talking about the trainers and how Washington for the past few years, have been dealing with injury issues. So when you worry about when you so focus on like what a particular role is lacking in your organization, you kind of overemphasize it. Now, I'm not saying Hurney and the second guy, Mayhew. I'm not saying that they're essentially not important cogs to the organization, but I'm saying eventually it won't matter anymore until it matters. And what I mean by that is there will be a long period of time. In which we turn our focus back to Ron and what's going on in the football field, because the front office will no longer be a distraction, and we see where this is headed. Like, we know that Ron is running the show. We know that people are reporting to Ron, and we know that Ron is trying to build a certain standard here. And this all will turn back into Ron. But right now, we don't know its true nature of the role for both of those guys. But I also think it won't matter in the long run until it's time. and that may be like a couple years down the road. I just don't think that. Personally, I feel like we're not going to focus on it too much after the news kind of settles down.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Well, so there's some more to talk about with these two, especially. Of course, we talked about it last week, Steve, you and I, that Marty Mayhew, of course, played with Washington. He was on one of the Super Bowl teams, cornerback, opposite of Darrell Green. His record kind of iffy if you look at win-losses.
His record sucks.
Yeah.
He doesn't, the idea that he was the GM in Detroit excites me not at all.
No, you should not be excited by the fact that he was technically the GM of the first 0-16 team.
Right.
Now, in his defense, that was his first year, and he was cleaning up a pretty big mess. But you went 0-16. That's a flag.
Well, and what I said before kind of goes, in that there's just this natural hole of suck in Detroit.
Oh, absolutely.
And it brings everybody down. It's the same thing here. So he doesn't excite me too much, but I have a hard time putting all of Detroit's problems on Martin Mayhew.
Right, and Marty Herney, of course, also has ties here to D.C. Anyone who's ever listened to Rick Snyder talk for 10 minutes knows how Rick and Marty Herney worked together back in the 80s as beat reporters on the team. And then Herney was actually hired by Jack Kent Cooke and Bobby Beathard to be a scouting assistant for a couple years here. I think only 2 seasons, and then he went with Beathard elsewhere.
So look, Washington front office, we are willing to be scouts. If you want to hire one of us,
yeah,
because we're in media here, yeah. I'm sure all of us would probably take the job. So feel free to call.
If y'all pay me double what I'm making right now, I will quit my job the minute we get off this call. Pay me double what I'm making now, and I'm all yours, Washington. Like I will put in the hours and time. Literally, as soon as this call is over, I don't know Steve and Alex anymore. I'm all yours.
I think you're just gonna dump us.
I don't know what scouts make in the NFL. I know in baseball, then Steve, you're a huge seam head, so I'm sure you know this too. Baseball scouts get paid nothing, especially like the bottom rung guys.
Some of them, yeah.
Like you're making like pennies.
But I would just hope that their expenses are covered, like their traveling expenses.
Oh, yeah, that's covered.
Oh, that is. But a good example is that there was a Clint Eastwood movie from 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah, Trouble with the Curve.
Scout.
Great movie.
Trouble with the Curve. And he was living in a crappy apartment or a little tiny house, and that's not far from the truth in baseball.
You're living out of $40 a night motels that are an hour from the stadium that you're going to go watch some kid play single-A ball.
Be a field because they don't have stadiums and most high school
baseball well, he was a high school scout too, yeah. But I'm talking about even the single-A scout types.
But anyway, so back to Washington. Jamal's right. Jamal's very right. We're going to talk about this now because we have to and it's going on. But the truth of the matter is, I don't think very many of us are going to care. Or there's not going to be much to talk about.
Yeah,
You know what? The cynic in me, and this is horrible, but I'm going to say it anyway because that's just who I am. This also may be a hedge against Ron Rivera's health. Granted he finished chemo, but his health status is private, and we don't really know.
No.
If he's better, not better. We know he finished chemo, and so this might be again in the cynic in me, and this is horrible, and I admit it's horrible. But if Ron should get sick again, having Marty Herney and Martin Mayhew in the front office would ensure continuity. Going forward in the event that he can't. And they have the same thing in the coaching ranks with Jack Del Rio. So all of this may be a hedge. Just a thought.
It also takes a lot off his plate either way.
Yeah.
If if the chemo wasn't completely effective, and we don't know yet. I mean, he won't know for another few months, I wouldn't think.
Well, we might not ever know.
Sure.
We, the public, What Washington's really doing here is resetting up Joe Gibbs Part 2 again, or the Bill Belichick model.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick, Joe Gibbs, that's what's going on here. This is a coach-centric structure. Ron Rivera's in charge. He's got a bunch of people to help him. Bill Belichick is in charge in New England, but he's had a GM all this time and directors of player, personnel, all that stuff. Bill Belichick doesn't handle travel and equipment. He's just overseeing it all. Joe Gibbs had a whole bunch of people helping him. He had a guy calling plays. He had and Al Saunders, and he had somebody in the front office, and
Yeah,
all of that.
it's almost more like a big time college program when you do it this way.
Right. Yeah.
So like, and it can be effective, obviously, but it takes the right kind of leadership, and everyone's got to buy in. And I think one of the problems with when Joe did it here is he had Vinny helping him with the scouting, and it definitely was a sense of Vinny was undercutting some things.
Vinny created the whole of stuff.
Yes. So I know we want to move on from this topic in a little bit, but one more thought I had on it. I am kind of curious. Neither of these guys have great records.
Leave it.
I do wonder how much that plays into. And Ron, to be fair, they both worked with Ron, so part of that record's with Ron. But I think fans freak out about that, but I really wonder how much that plays into the decision to hire anybody. Or is it really, we're not hiring you for a win-loss record, we're hiring you because, you're good at XYZ tasks, and we know that.
They're being hired because Ron likes them and gets along with them.
Sure.
And can work with them. That's why they're being hired.
Yep.
Yeah, probably.
So I have an issue with nepotism.
Sure.
For all the glaringly obvious reasons. I'm not about to make an excuse here, but I will say, in certain instances where it's like, Ron is in a position where he's been here for a year, he has a year under his belt, and he knows where he wants to go. Getting on the same page as people that you already know is just easier than having a guy or guys that you it's sometimes easier because it's just you're having a guy that is not gonna what's the word? It's not gonna cause tension down the line. Like eventually, they're all. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have moments where you disagree, but the overall scheme, like this person and you know how they operate in a terms of in a managerial oversight / sense. So having that outside guy come in, not saying there's nothing wrong with it, because obviously I have a problem with like the nepotism thing, like the overall grand scheme of it when it comes to this stuff. But for a person who's already had a year under his belt versus like a person who is coming in and is trying to collect the best possible minds out there, then I don't know. I feel like there's a slight difference. To what degree, I don't know, but I do feel like there's a little difference, and I can give him just a tad bit of slack on this.
I mean, it's more sort of like a good old boys network than really true nepotism, which is family.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get Jamal's point, and the NFL's ripe with it, has been for generations. That's the whole Fritz Pollard alliance was really born out of the fact that there is so much nepotism and good old boy networks going around in the NFL that the NFL wasn't hiring enough minority candidates because none of them were in the good old boys club. That was kind of where the Fritz Pollard alliance sort of came from. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a problem. I think in this case, I don't really think it's that. It's just like Ron knows Marty Hurney especially and is comfortable with him. And they can work together.
Yeah.
They got to a Super Bowl, So I just think that Ron likes these guys. And Mayhew, I don't think he worked with Mayhew as much as he did Marty Hurney, but he still knows him, likes him.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's another, and I think more than Hurney, Mayhew is another player, personnel, kind of scout sort of guy who can really have another voice on players that Hurney probably can't have.
So, one thing that is kind of interesting, I was looking at the Washington scouting department, and I think right now, before these hires, they have 18 people on both pro and college scouting. And then you got your Bledsoe guys and your guy whose job is to scout the arena football leagues and CFL and stuff like that.
Alex's dream
Yeah,
job.
my dream job, right. But I was looking at when all these guys are hired, and other than one or two exceptions, almost everybody in the scouting department is still a holdover from the Bruce Allen era, and we even still have like 3 or 4 guys, I don't remember the exact number, who are from the Vinny Cerrato era. Like, they've been here
scary.
forever.
Yeah.
Like I don't see how. Like, what kind of PTSD those guys have as, working for this team that long.
Yeah.
Hey, they need a paycheck.
Yeah, yeah. But I think you're going to see some big turnover coming after the draft, especially. A lot of people are saying they think Kyle will be gone because of these hires, and I don't know about that. I think Kyle Smith has done a good job with college scouting. But
Has he? I mean, is he indispensable? We always think this.
Yeah.
Like you brought up Morocco Brown last week,
Yeah.
Alex. I mean, it's the same thing. Are we going to survive without Kyle? I would guess.
yeah, we will.
That's a good question. I think the things that a lot of us don't take into account when we have those conversations is, we think about all the, the highlight draftings or signees throughout a person's tenure, but then when you weigh it against the whiffs, like
Sure.
does it? I'm not saying I'm a fan of Kyle Smith. I'm just saying in a fan's perspective, it's because we think of all the good people that he found, but when you collect all the years and then you think about the people that they chose over somebody else, like, did that person do enough homework? Did they really see this whole process part clearly? And things like that. That's where I was getting at. So, not necessarily saying it's 100% applicable to Kyle Smith, but what I will say is, just in general, as a fan base, as fans, when you like a guy, you kind of overlook the misses or the flaws of that person, and you may not fully know what they are, but at the same time, it's a possibility that you can whiff and miss on that one aspect that's a pretty key aspect in terms of player like personnel decisions.
Well, and you're right, and Washington's had a lot of misses, recently, and but we also had a moron as a team president.
Yeah.
For a long, we had 2 straight morons as the team president, and we had an owner that was rumored to have meddled in the draft, for example, multiple times. So we don't really know. I mean, the scouts may be good, maybe they're not. I suspect they're probably pretty good, but I just think the leadership at the top has really affected this team's direction. The prior leadership at the top has really affected this team's direction. And I think they're in much better shape now than they ever were before.
I think
I'm
they are,
excited
too.
in that respect.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think we all agree there that they're in better shape now than they were. And I know we got to move on. So one last little, you mentioned Ron's health earlier, Steve. Not that this is really a topic of discussion because I don't know what you can say about it, but the team did announce today that they have to shut down their facility for a few days because somebody tested positive for COVID. They didn't say who, business side, corporate, or team player, but basically Washington's facilities are shut down. Everyone's working from home. So, I guess they got to douse the whole place with rubbing alcohol now, So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll put that out there. That was a little story that came out. Let's move on. There was a quick thing after they hired or announced Marty Mayhew's hiring. People are saying
You keep calling him Marty. You realize he's Martin.
Martin.
Mayhew, right?
Sorry, I want to say Marty and Marty. Marty and Marty in the morning.
Every time somebody say Marty, I think about that show
Back
on
to the
Netflix.
Future?
The Ozark.
Oh, Ozark. Marty.
Oh
yeah.
that.
That's my show right there.
Okay, so real quick, there's more Deshaun Watson rumors. They somehow think that Mayhew coming here would help with Washington getting Watson. I just see all these fans and their like insane trade ideas. Oh, let's trade Chase Young and Montez Sweat both for So you're saying you want to win with a championship defense, and then you're going to trade away the championship defense. It doesn't make.
I don't want to trade anybody for a malcontent who's currently overthrowing an entire team. I mean, Deshaun Watson's throwing a hissy fit down in Houston because he feels that he was not respected, I guess, enough when the team hired a new general manager and a coach.
Well, they haven't hired a coach
Deshaun,
yet.
You're not in charge.
Yeah.
You aren't, and it's not the owner is in charge. You're not in charge. And I don't want to bring a guy like that to Washington. Who's to say he's going to be happy here? Screw him. And I especially don't want to do it when you're going to have to give them 3 first-round draft picks probably for him. He's young. He's signed through 2024. You know, he's not. I just don't. And on top of that, I mean, with the salary cap being all aflutter right now, because of the COVID loss of income and stuff, I do not want to bring that guy in here. And no, I don't think we ought to trade away whoever you just said. If people are suggesting Chase Young, whatever, that's stupid. So I'm done. I don't want Deshaun Watson in here if he's going to be that much of a. It's like bringing James Harden into your team. If you're a bat, no thanks. Don't be an attitude problem on my team. That's just me, Jamal. You can feel free to disagree.
I'm just trying to analyze everything you just said here.
It was a mouthful.
Yeah,
But I'm good at that.
I don't necessarily. I don't think that Deshaun is in a. All right, so that just took me for a whirlwind. I'll just start off from the top. I don't think that Deshaun was wrong to be upset with the owner or management for the predicament that they put him in. They said that he would be at least involved in the process. I think that was a mistake right there. They should have never told him that he would be involved in the process or even allowed him to be involved in the process in such a significant hire such as a general manager and a head coach. They should have never did that from the get-go. I think where they absolutely messed up is when they told him but also chose to not include him. So if you tell somebody you're going to do something, you can stick to it. You don't have to just feed them lip service to make them feel some type of way. That's the first thing. Again, my main point is he should have never been involved because those type of decisions, having your quarterback there to begin with, is a mistake, and the quarterback should never be involved in any type of decision like that. And the recent example I point to always is Baker Mayfield in 2019. What is it, 2020?
Yeah.
2019, when he said, "Oh, I love Freddie Kitchens, man. We looked so good in my rookie year. I want him as my head coach my year 2." He was never qualified to take that role. He should have never been. Baker Mayfield, just because he had a great season, they bent the knee after 1 year, and they wasted a whole year for the Browns because they wanted to hire Freddie Kitchens as the head coach. That's my biggest example. But when it comes to Deshaun as a player, I don't think Deshaun, because it shows Deshaun has shown way too much throughout his career that tells you how humble he is as a person. For him to be upset, there's clearly valid reasons and more that we don't know about. And he's also requesting a trade. You bring up a valid point, Steve, that you said who's to say he doesn't do this to us, and that's a cause for concern, a legitimate one that I acknowledge. However, I don't think people who has shown the type of character that he has, if he's upset, he's just trying to get out of a bad situation. And who's to say that Houston is going to trade him? They may say, "Bro, we're not going to honor your request, your trade request," and he may be fine with that. But he just wants it to be known that he's pissed off. So he may very well be fine with playing out his contract. But at the end of the day, he knows and he wants people to know that he doesn't want to be there. I personally would trade for him.
I think the price tag is going to be insane if they even, are trying to trade him.
There's no doubt about that. It's going to be 3 first-round picks plus something else.
Yeah.
So
You don't get a young player under contract for 4 years,
For
4
less
seasons
than that,
without paying a mountain of trade assets.
yes, and here's what I would ask people. Clearly you all, because you're people on the mic right now. But here's what I would ask people who are listening as well. You're talking about. I'll put it in perspective this way. This is better. There was a lot of conversation at the draft last year, and Steve, you had your comments as well about Isaiah Simmons. There was a lot of people who said you weren't so certain you take Chase Young when you can trade back and add draft capital, but also have the potential of drafting Isaiah Simmons, et cetera, all that stuff. So Chase Young, after year 1, we know that he's good. He's good enough. We'll put it that way. He's a top talent. Say in 2 years he becomes all pro, and he's clearly that guy who is you clearly wouldn't trade away. However, when that time comes and somebody not saying that you're going to trade him away, but saying what would it take for a guy that quality of guy. Would say like you ask for 2 first-round picks for Chase Young. The person on the other end wouldn't, knowing that they know that this guy's a top talent, they wouldn't hesitate to trade for that person for 2 first-round picks. If they really wanted Chase Young, I'm using that as an example because he is the recent one, but he's at that point in 2 years, he's a proven guy. When you're talking about the quarterback position, obviously 2 different ends, but defensive end is still like that top tier for the defensive side of the ball. When you're talking about quarterback position, somebody's asking for 3 first-round picks. I'm not saying Washington should go for it. In my end, I would do it because I know for 3 first-round picks and a player who that's to be determined and maybe even a longer discussion. But when we're talking about draft picks, if you're getting a known commodity at the quarterback position who at his age is 25 years old, I'm not hesitating to pull the trigger on a known commodity at 25 years old where you can have him for at least 4 or 5 more years. There is no concern at all, not an ounce in my body, that I can be comfortable taking this guy for 3 first-round picks because that's what it takes to get a top 3 arguably, but top 10 for certain quarterback. Like, that's exactly what you're getting in that guy. I wouldn't hesitate.
I do like Deshaun's game. So everybody don't misunderstand me. You know, he's a legitimate franchise quarterback.
I don't think it's a question of the talent.
I would trade Chase Young any day of the week and twice on Sunday for Deshaun Watson. If it was straight up Chase Young for Watson, I would do it every time without fail. I would personally, just because, like Jamal says, he's a proven guy. You know, and at the end of the day, the quarterback's the most important position. I just wouldn't go so far as to trade away the team's entire future, you know, to borrow a line from the movie Draft Day.
Yeah.
You know, that's our future. And I just wouldn't be willing to go quite that far maybe. But, I mean, on the other hand, Jamal does have a point, which is it's not trading for, you know, the number 1 quarterback in the draft. Like, you know, you had Robert Griffin was the number 2 quarterback. He hadn't proven anything.
Right.
What is a proven franchise quarterback worth? It's worth a discussion in the questions about Watson's attitude with this recent event aside. Jamal, you've made me kind of wonder, what price would I pay for it? You know, is there a price? Yeah, I guess there is a number. You know,
I mean, there's always a number. I just think 3 first-rounders is so much.
Well, and by the way, we're making that up.
That's just what people have been throwing around online.
I think it's probably 3 plus a player on top of it.
Yeah.
I think it's more than that. But would I give like 2 first-round picks? Yeah, I think I would. Absolutely. And, you know, pick a player, you know, I don't know, whoever, you know, there is a price I would pay for Watson, yes.
Okay. I mean, you know, I don't know what the price is.
The attitude problem aside, I'd have to sit down with him. Somebody'd have to talk to him and make sure he's not a head case.
Yeah.
This recent, he hasn't shown that before now, but this recent, I just don't like attitude problems.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think bias against people.
And
like
you
that.
especially can't have it from a quarterback. You know, quarterback's got to lead the team. They got to have a captain on their chest.
And maybe he's okay. I mean, again, you'd have to talk to his agent and all of that to really figure it out.
I mean, I also know Bill O'Brien just massively screwed up, you know, everything.
I can't believe it because I like him as a coach, but like hearing the type of person that he is and his petty nature and his clearly incompetence as a general manager, like it pissed me off because you ruined the Houston Texans on your way out. And the sad part is I don't think he knew. Like, he was so cocky and petty that he thought that he can just continue to win without certain people, and his ass got fired. And that's unfortunate. So I can't imagine what Deshaun was going through these past couple of years, having to deal with that over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? That was a mess of a situation that the coach created. Guys, we should move on to the next topic here. We are trying to start to do our whole weekly free agency period, you know, before free agency really starts. Steve's got a write-up that he's going to have. I don't remember what day it's coming out, Steve. Is it
probably
Friday?
Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the topic is going to be free agent tight ends. So, Steve, since you said you've already kind of looked at this, why don't you just give us a quick rundown of some of your thoughts on the free agent tight ends?
Yeah, okay, to set the stage, what we're doing here is we're going to preview every free agent, every position group,
Right.
the free agents available in every position group, and we always time this so we get it done prior to the start of free agency, which starts, the legal tampering period starts March 15th, and the new league year starts March 17th. So that's what we're doing here. So I started tight ends this week because, frankly, I don't think Washington's going to spend a lot of money on tight ends, and this was kind of an easy one to do on a busy show week. So that's why I picked tight ends. So the overview here is, well, the other reason is I picked tight ends. It's a really, really weak group. There's not a lot to talk about here, okay? And now I think Logan Thomas changed the calculus with Washington and tight ends because he obviously panned out. You know, he became probably more than I know all of us thought on this show.
I've had discussions with people in Twitter and on our comment section about this. Logan Thomas, up until maybe midway through the season, everyone kind of thought, okay, maybe he's a tight end too. How he came on the second half of this year, he's a tight end one, and people can question certain parts of his game. I get that he's not a fully rounded out tight end, probably not the greatest blocker still. But his stats put him in the top of the receiving categories for tight end, or if not quite, he's not number one, but he's up there. He's in the top 10.
He's a good one.
Yeah.
He's a solid one.
Thomas is
what
a
does
starting
Washington
tight end.
need? I mean, Washington, Jeremy Sprinkle's a free agent.
Right.
Jamal's former love, Jeremy Sprinkle. And they've got a bunch of undrafted free agents, practice squad types behind them. And so they basically have Logan Thomas and relatively little, comparatively speaking. So they do need another proven tight end. And so it's not unreasonable to think that Washington's going to sign a tight end. Now, the number one guy on the market is Hunter Henry again, because Henry, if you recall, was basically the number one guy last year. He went back to the Chargers for a $10.7 million deal. He had a decent year.
Yeah.
But Washington is not going to spend another $10 million on a tight end. I think it's almost pointless to talk about Hunter Henry, in my view. He's another receiving tight end. He's got a good skill set. There he is. He's young, 26. But Washington just isn't going to do that, I don't think. So the next guy, Jared Cook, is out there. He's with the Saints, so he's still playing.
I just hate how he catches the ball.
What's that, Jamal?
I said I just hate how he catches the ball. I don't think he's a bad player. It's just weird. I can't explain it, but it's like there's awkward players in the NFL. Don't matter how good they are. Like Devontae Adams, the way he runs is just awkward. But he's good at football. It's just certain things. So, I don't know. I can't explain it further than that.
He's 33, so he's up there, but he's not too old. Earlier in his career, he was known as a good blocker. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's really the case anymore. If you want to believe PFF, which I don't, PFF doesn't like his blocking ability, so take that for what you will. I take it for trash, but he's probably the number 2 guy on the market, realistically speaking. Jonnu Smith is out there, 2017 draft pick by the Titans. Now, Smith is an interesting guy. I think this might be someone that maybe Washington will look at. He picked up a big blocking role for Tennessee this year as an inline tight end when Taylor Lewan went out with his ACL tear. So he's got some decent blocking skills, and they obviously had the Mr. Running Back, out there. Help me,
Henry.
The name is escaping me. Thank you. Yeah, him. And so, forgive me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I don't know if it's Jonnu or Jonnu, but
yeah, it's Jonnu.
He's a little undersized. Jonnu. Okay, he's only 6'3", but he's got some solid blocking credentials. I think that's what Washington needs. So, I kind of like him as maybe as a number 2. He's a pass catcher. He had 41 receptions, 448 yards. So, I like him. Gerald Everett's another one. He was a 2017 second-round pick by the Rams. He doesn't have a reputation as a decent blocker, but he's a decent receiver. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have blocking, that doesn't help us. So I tend to think Everett's probably not meant for us, but he's another one out there. Then you got a couple obvious ones. Rob Gronkowski's on the market. I think there's zero chance Rob plays for anybody but Tom Brady.
Right.
So it's almost not worth it talking about him. But he's out there if you wanted to throw like a mountain of cash at him.
And he's going to be
maybe you
year
can
to year
tempt him.
anyway. Like,
Right. And then, you got Jordan Reed. Just no.
No.
But
Pass.
no. Yeah, and then, the most likely thing, truthfully, I think it's either, for Washington, in my view, it's either Jonnu Smith or somebody we've never heard of is going to get picked up off of, the waiver wire.
Well, I'll give you one name. I don't know if he's necessarily a free agent, but I'm very sure he's going to be a cap casualty, and he's killed us for years. Zach Ertz is probably off the Eagles roster.
I left Zach Ertz off on purpose because I believe they have a club option. So
They have an option, but the talk
Yeah.
is that he's going to be out of Philly. They're over the cap. He's getting old, and he's now their number 2. I don't mind the idea of getting somebody like that who I think he's 31, 32. He's up there for a tight end in terms of years. But if he's your number 2 guy, I don't mind a veteran backing it up, kind of like what we had with Vernon Davis for, what was that, 2 seasons. It's not that
I don't mind him, but I just left him off until he's been released.
Sure,
Yeah,
I understand that.
I kind of think that's actually not a bad. That's a pretty good idea, Alex. I think if you go that route, the thing would be either you're committing to investing into Logan Thomas as your number 1, or you're drafting your number 1, because Zach Ertz isn't here for he ain't here for a long time. So I think that's one of the things that you got to take into account. Is if you get a guy like him, then your search for a tight end isn't over. You still need some help. 'Cause I don't think Logan Thomas is number 1, like a top tier number 1. I do think he's convinced me, like he's like top between 32 and 20. He up there, but he ain't top tier number 1. So you might want to always look to improve at that position, given what you have now.
I mean, I disagree with you. I think his receiving numbers would speak for themselves in terms of where he's probably higher ranked than bottom of the starter group.
Hold on now. Look at
that.
if you want to talk about stats, because I can tell you right now, you can look at the top 5 guys and see where the huge gap exists between number 1 and numbers 2 through 5. Logan Thomas is up there in the top 5 as Dakota, what are you doing? As other tight ends. He's up there, but the drop off between number 1 and numbers 2 through 5 will tell you that this wasn't the best tight end year. It really wasn't.
Oh no! I think we had like some glory years of the tight end position. To I don't know how to better put it, when we had Tony Gonzalez, and there were like maybe 4 or 5 elite tight ends at one point in the NFL, and that's over.
Yeah, look, my view of Logan Thomas is that he drastically outplayed my expectations for him. I don't think he's in the top tier of pass-catching tight ends necessarily. I mean, I would put him somewhere in the middle. He's solid for sure. Is he a huge threat? No. Is he going to, scare everybody like Rob Gronkowski does, or Travis Kelce or somebody like that? No. But he's solid, and he improved, and he's better than what I thought and what a lot of people thought. So in that respect, I think he's a starter. Do I think he's a top-line starter? Probably not. But they're not going to find somebody like that this year. I think they're stuck with Logan.
Yeah, and then you also got to think, too, like, and I hate that it's turned into this, but it's more so not even against Logan. It's more so just trying to improve the position itself, and also improving the weaponry that Washington currently lacks. But I feel like Logan is good, but he provides one aspect, and it's just hands. Like he doesn't. He's not that fast. He's not that quick. He's not that elusive. But he just has hands. That's literally what it is. And that's all. That's really good. Like that's what I thought Jeremy Sprinkle would be. But that's what Logan. That's who Logan Thomas is, and I think that you can just get a little bit better at that position. You
I
need a
mean,
little bit more
I'm not
versatility.
saying I'm not saying it doesn't need to be upgraded. I think the drop off. I mean, you talk about the drop off between the elite tight ends in the NFL and him. Look at the drop off between Logan Thomas and our next guys, and that's
Well, we've ignored the tight end group for
Yeah.
a while. To be clear, just to clear up Zach, I've been looking at Zach Ertz's contract while we've been talking. So Ertz is signed through 2021. 2022 is a voidable year, meaning it's going to go away. So he's in effect in his last year in Philadelphia this coming
contractual.
Oh,
Yeah,
21.
but
Yeah. 22 is a voidable year, so 21 will be his final year. So will they cut him? What Alex is talking about is if the Eagles cut him for salary cap reasons.
well, the
then he
Eagle,
may be
and
available.
we haven't talked about this on this show, but the Eagles, I think, have the second worst salary cap situation in the league right now. I think it's the Saints and then
Yeah.
them. So, yeah.
So, in absence of just the Washington bringing in somebody who none of us have ever heard of, or have heard of once, which is, I think, probably the most likely thing, I'm in favor of giving Jonnu Smith a shot.
Sure.
I think he's probably of this group that I've been talking about. I think he's probably fits us the best.
I mean,
So that's my.
I'm not against that, especially if he's a good inline blocker, like you said. We desperately need somebody else who can block on this team, because right now they're depending on the 5 linemen, and that's it. It doesn't work. So that kind of sums up the tight end situation, guys. We should talk about the playoffs before we get out of here. Of course, it's the championship week. Kansas is going to play Buffalo. Green Bay is going to play Tampa Bay. Battle of the Bays, which that used to be a rivalry back when there were only 3 divisions, wasn't it? Green Bay and Tampa Bay, because they were in the same conference.
Y'all old
for a
men
while.
know better than me.
Yeah.
No, what planet are you from, Alex? When have they ever been a rival?
Weren't they both in the NFC Central back when there were only 3 conferences? I think they were.
I don't remember.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
remember
That
being a huge
side
rival, though.
really
I
just shut Steve out. He's like, I can't recall right now. I don't have the time for this.
I remember what Alex was talking about. There used to be 3 divisions, in each conference, but I don't remember Tampa Bay and Green Bay being a rival. No.
I'm going to look it up
Now
while
we'll
we're
see
talking.
Alex type.
But
Okay.
regardless, why don't we start with the NFC game? Because, we're NFC guys. We're Washington fans. Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady in a championship game. It still feels weird to me. But what do you like? What do you guys make of this? This is going to be like probably the two. We saw it last week a little with Brady versus Breeze, but now it's 2 elite old veteran quarterbacks going head to head again. I really don't mind these matchups. They're fun to watch. That right off the bat.
Yeah, so in terms of Green Bay and Tampa Bay, I mean, I have to automatically give the edge to the Packers in this. They're at home. They don't lose too many playoff games at home. Aaron Rodgers is on a mission, I think. I don't know if they really have more talent necessarily than Tampa, but they've been far more consistent than Tampa all year.
Mm-hmm.
The Packers have been outstanding in almost every game, whereas Tampa has been kind of shaky at times. So I just think it's Aaron Rodgers' year. The Packers are favored by 3, for those of you who are wondering. So Vegas sees this as a very tight game, as they should. And with these 2 quarterbacks, you just never know. So there's no guarantee. Nobody, if anybody thinks they know, the result is wrong. But I just tend to give the edge to Rodgers just because he's been so good this year. But I think this is definitely the game of the weekend for me.
Yeah. Is everything good on my end? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're better now.
All right, just making sure. Before I go into this soliloquy, as Stephen A. likes to call it. It's just one of these. I can't wait. I can't wait till Sunday. You have in the NFC, obviously, you have like the 2 OGs, 2 future Hall of Famers going head to head. And it's amazing to see Tom Brady in his first year take Tampa to the heights that he took them. Obviously, Super Bowl is the end game, so and everybody knows that. So he's not done yet, and if they lose, in his perspective, it's a failure. So in that regard, they still have places to go. They're not done yet, but between the 2 quarterbacks, You're talking about a guy in Aaron Rodgers who, what, I don't even know how many interceptions he threw. It's not even more than 5. But it's just incredible and he's threw over 40 touchdowns. So it's incredible the type of run that he's on.
It's 5, by the
yeah.
way.
So 5 on the dot.
48 touchdowns. 48 touchdowns.
So 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's been killing it all year long. And it's just a game where I just know they're going to go back and forth. However, I do think based on what I've been able to see from Tampa, I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the key to this game. If he has a bad game, then Green Bay's in trouble because I don't think it's going to be anybody other than Aaron Rodgers who's going to have to carry this team. And I honestly, I think that I think it was you, Steve, who said it. It's his year, and I agree. I think Tom Brady has to wait a year, and I'm a fan. I've always viewed Tom as the underdog from where he's come from, like in general. He's proven himself in the NFL, but as a 6th-round pick, I've always rooted for Tom in that regard. But I just think he has to wait a year. I think this is Aaron Rodgers' year.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be Aaron Rodgers' year as well. By the way, while we were talking, I did look it up. From 1977 until the 32-team realignment in 2002, Tampa Bay was in the same conference as Green Bay.
I don't remember them being a huge rival. Is what I'm saying.
I just remember them always jokingly calling it the Battle of the Bays. But yeah, and before that, I forgot Tampa was in the AFC West, which is weird as hell.
That's what happens when you really, really suck for a lot of years. You get bounced around.
Yeah. But I'd forgotten that Tampa was an AFC team at one point. Well, I wasn't born, so that's my excuse.
They also had horrible orange ice cream cone looking.
And Bucko Bruce, too. which everyone wants them to bring back now. It's weird. But anyway, I think that you guys are right. Aaron Rodgers has just been on fire. I think that Tampa's been playing with a little bit of not house money, but they got lucky in that they played Washington, who was beat up, and let's be honest, we were lucky to be in the playoffs. Then they got Drew Brees, who I didn't know this was playing with a torn rotator cuff, 11 broken ribs, and like a fractured fibula or something like that.
Torn rotator cuff.
His wife posted on Instagram.
Someone just released that today. I think his wife put it out on Instagram that his rotator cuff was torn too.
Just the 11 broken ribs alone.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
He was playing with like 100 injuries, which explains why he threw every interception there ever was in that game. But
he threw all the interceptions.
Now they're getting finally a healthy, good team, and I think it's gonna be tough for Brady this time.
Look. So in terms of offenses, they're kind of been in terms of overall production, they're not far away from each other. So the Packers are the number 1 scoring team in the NFL, 509 points. Tampa's not far behind, 492 points. So they both are high production offenses. In terms of rushing and stuff, so the Packers are number 7 in rushing yards per attempt. The Buccaneers really stink at it, and so you got to think that if the weather turns bad in Green Bay, the Packers probably have an advantage, not just because Tampa's from the South, but because they can run the ball a lot better than can the Bucs. And Aaron Rodgers is significantly more mobile than is Tom Brady.
And here's the thing that bothers me with Tampa. Last week against the Saints, Tampa forces 4 turnovers. They score on all 4. However, I mean that's not the bad part. That's clearly good for them. However, throughout the course of the year, in games in which their offense struggles, they're not in the game unless the defense makes a play. And you're asking your defense to give you the ball on several occasions throughout a game in order for you to have some momentum offensively. That's a good thing that Tom Brady and his offense capitalizes on the defense's forced turnovers. However, what about those games where, you have to, just duke it out with that other team's offense? Like, you have to compete. Can that offense move the ball? Can Tampa Bay's offense, excuse me, specifically, can that offense move the ball? And that's where it's like, for me too, I can't trust this offense, the Tampa's offense this year to really do it by themselves. But it will be interesting because that defense of theirs is really good, and I think that they're capable of forcing those turnovers. And that's where the difference comes in between, because if you can get Tom Brady, excuse me, if you get Aaron Rodgers to have a mistake or two, or even get home to the quarterback and get a strip fumble. Because Tampa does know how to blitz, and they can send it, and they can create some pressure on Aaron Rodgers. If you can get home, then you're in good shape. But I'm not going to keep hoping to rely on the defense to make a play for Tom Brady when they need to move the ball themselves.
I think you're right in that when if things really get tough, I would trust Green Bay's offense a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think Tampa's a little bit more of like a Ferrari, very high strung. And when stuff goes bad, it really goes bad. Whereas Green Bay has a little bit more of an ability to grind it out, and I think Aaron Rodgers has more of an ability to put the whole game on his shoulders if he really had to than does Brady.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this game either way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we're all, it sounds like, in agreement. This is probably Green Bay going to win.
Yeah, I think Green Bay wins.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it'll be close game, good game, but yeah, Green Bay.
Okay.
And for those asking, right now, today's Wednesday, gets released on Thursday. I think that if anybody's interested, I think Green Bay covers as well. They cover the spread.
Does Jamal have money on this game?
I will. Not now. I'll wait till game day.
Okay.
Well, let's jump.
Game day.
Let's jump to, the lines changed, Steve, and
yeah. So I just got to give it some time.
He's got to wait for the right line. So let's move to Kansas City and Buffalo. This game, if that is the veteran quarterbacks that you're excited to watch, these are the kids. It's the adults table and the kids table kind of matchups this week. So,
I wouldn't consult them quite
like
that.
Yes. I mean, they're both under 25. The other guys are about to retire, or at that point where they could retire at this point, and you wouldn't be shocked. So, I mean, this one, it's going to be interesting because I think, you are seeing a difference in the styles of play between generations, whereas, Rodgers is a little bit mobile, but, they're more traditional pocket passers up in the first game we mentioned. And these guys are mobile. They run around. They make plays with their feet more. It's going to be an interesting kind of juxtaposition, these two games, in that respect. Just very different styles of play between the conferences.
Well, there's a very important factor here. Patrick Mahomes is currently in concussion.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we should talk about that first.
Now, for those of you who don't know this, I know Jamal and Alex do, but there are multiple steps to getting out of concussion protocol. It's kind of like you're in timeout for recess in 5th grade. You got to get cleared to practice by an independent neurologist. Yeah. That has happened. Mahomes practiced on Wednesday. However, now he needs to get cleared, go to the independent neurologist for a second time to get cleared to play a game. Just because he's practicing means nothing. He might not get cleared. If he doesn't get cleared, it's going to be the Chad Henne show, which is a significant drop-off. Henne played pretty well last week in relief, but that's a whole different calculation. And on top of that, remember Mahomes had, was it a toe? I think it was a turf toe.
Yeah, injury. Game day.
Yeah, he's not totally healthy. And so there is a little bit of a handicap there. But that having been said, I mean, come on. The Chiefs versus the Bills. I mean, the Bills are gutsy and gamey and all of that, but if Mahomes was there in any sort of reasonable facsimile of himself, the gig is up.
Oh, yeah. I think so. I think you got to favor the Chiefs if Mahomes is healthy. And you mentioned that concussion. Him getting up when he had that concussion was one of the, I don't want to say uglier things I've seen on a football field. It looked rough, though. Like, he was barely able to stand without his lineman holding him for a good couple seconds there. So...
That's why they have the concussion protocol, because in years past, they would have thrown him right back in the game.
Yeah, and You know, like I know people were critical of the concussion protocol stuff at first, but when you see something like that, how can you not be like, okay, now it makes sense, keep him out, you know?
Yeah, but that's the biggest factor.
Yeah, of course.
Is Mahomes going to play, and if he does play, is he himself?
Right, because if it's not him, Chad Henne ain't gonna.
Well, look, the Bills. I mean, let's not mistake the Bills for the '85 Bears, okay? And let's not mistake Josh Allen for Joe Montana.
No.
Has he improved a lot? Absolutely, yes, definitely he has. Is he a Hall of Famer? No. The Bills have talent, but the Bills have been up and down at times this year, and Josh Allen still needs to make improvements. I think what they have going for him more than anything is guts. They're kind of on a roll a little bit right now, but they're not in the same class as the Chiefs at all. I don't think.
I don't think they're in the same class, but I do think this is a year where it's like, for the Bills, excuse me, this is a year where it's like any given Sunday for them. And the reason why I say that, I've been able to watch them over the past few weeks, like prior to the playoffs. So like, and this is also the gambler side of me. So I had to pay attention for obvious reasons. These guys, specifically Josh Allen, is incredible. That's clearly the aspect that you need if you're a Bills fan. That's the specific guy that you need to be on point, because that defense, over like collectively throughout the season, the defense statistically isn't that good. But like the past few weeks, they've been playing like a top 10 defense. This is heading into the playoffs. They haven't really been giving up much. So in that regard, like statistically, you may be deceived a bit. For those who may look at the stats on their defense, they're going to hang in there against the Chiefs. To what degree, I don't know. But I think that it's going to be that one possession game that we're all hoping for. When you see two offenses led by these young quarterbacks, I think it's going to be that type of game that we're all hoping for. The first game that they played, I don't even think it was close, to be honest with you. Like, I know the score indicated it was two possessions, but I think from what I recall way back when, I don't even think it was close in game either. So I think Chiefs win, and they go back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. But I think that the Bills is going to give people a run for their money, because this is a team that's not going to just compete for this season, but they will be here longer than just 1 year. That's what I feel.
Jamal brought up a good point, which is Kansas City and Buffalo did play this year. Kansas City won 26-17. I don't think that's going to be far from what this game is going to be like. Because Jamal's right in that. Yeah, if I could read you their numbers and stuff, their defensive numbers, and on a season they're not great. They've got a bunch of mid-level rankings. Their rushing yards per attempt is bad, ranked 26. But for the most part it's mid-level. But yeah, they've been playing a lot better. And Kansas City has had to gut out some games this year. It hasn't all been like high flying, all of that. They've had a bunch of games like that, but they've also had some battles, this year. And they had a battle last week against the Browns.
Yeah.
That was by no means a cakewalk. It was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, at least. They had to gut one out against the Saints, for example, a few weeks ago. So, I'm going to go Kansas City, with the caveat that if Mahomes plays. If Mahomes doesn't play, I don't know.
I don't see how you can take Kansas City if he's not there.
Well, I mean, Chad Henne played pretty well though last week. So, again, let me read you Henne's numbers.
He had that terrible interception.
Yeah, I thought they were about to lose the game after that.
He did.
Yeah.
Henne was 6 for 8 for 66 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. I think they're going to figure out how to get Mahomes on the field, and I'm going to go Kansas City in a close game.
Jamal, where are you at on this?
I don't think I gave an actual score. But I just think it'll be a close game, like within a one possession game.
Yeah.
I guess for the sake of giving a score,
We didn't give scores.
No, we don't
last
really.
week.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm about to say I don't know. That's
That's our
yeah, I'm about to say,
Washington.
I think
thing.
it's gonna be a close game. I don't know further than that. Dakota, leave it.
I think it'll be. I think it will be close if Mahomes plays. I think, but I'll be honest. If he's not in it, from what I saw, Chad Henne, he's not getting you anywhere. Like he might keep you in it a little while, but if he's not in there, Buffalo's going to pull away in the fourth quarter and won't be close.
I do think Kansas City's going to move heaven and earth to get Patrick Mahomes on the field. They have to go get the doctor from the Simpsons.
Right, Dr.
What's
Nick.
that guy's name?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to go get into Dr. Nick to say that Patrick Mahomes is okay. They're going to do that. I think it's, considering how bad Mahomes looked, it's a miracle he's practicing.
Yeah. Well, they're claiming
I
it's a
think
pinched
probably
nerve
if
in the
it was-
neck and not a concussion. That's what they're doing.
If
right
it was like Washington in Week 8, Mahomes, he wouldn't be
No.
practicing. So, yeah, I think Dr. Nick is going to clear Mahomes one way or another, even if they have to slip him a few hundreds or a few thousands.
Yeah, I think they're going to need
will.
money that we don't have.
They're gonna
like
They're going to send some coke and hookers
Dr.
to
Nick's
the
house,
doctors,
Coke and
Yeah.
hookers.
yeah, but and you're probably right. They'll probably clear him. I saw
In the NFL, the cynic in me says the NFL has a vested interest in making sure Patrick Mahomes is
Yeah.
clear. So somehow it'll
Yeah, I agree. It in the end they'll talk CT all they like, but something like this happens and rubber meets the road.
it goes right out
Yeah,
the window.
of course. Yeah, I think that's right. Well,
Hey,
guys, I think
Dakota,
that
get
wraps.
your ass up off of me.
Dakota seems to have a big problem with our predictions.
Bruh, she is jumping. I like for the past 10 minutes. I've been keeping my calm.
It's like, Dad, you're
Bruh.
you're undervaluing
Yeah.
the.
Pay
you know,
attention
the
to me.
This
Buffalo
is ridiculous.
Bills
All right,
offense.
I'm sorry, Alex. I just had to say it one time before
No.
she tries to go crazy and rip my hoodie off of me, off of my person. Go ahead.
You're fine. You're fine. We're just gonna wrap up the show anyway, and then you and
But you
Dakota
didn't
can.
give a prediction, Alex. Did you predict? Give an official
I said
prediction for
Kansas
that game?
City, unless Mahomes doesn't play, then they'll get blown out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my prediction.
I would say this much, though. I think the NFL does not want the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. They definitely want the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Well,
From a ratings and marketing standpoint.
if you're doing ratings and marketing, yeah, the last thing here's where it gets weird.
Leave it.
Buffalo versus Green Bay would be the two smallest markets in the league, but I would love to see it because I have a affinity for teams that play in like 10
Small
feet of
market.
snow. But I think the NFL
well,
would
they've
hate
got a
that.
high-profile player, Aaron Rodgers, for the pack. It's really the Bills they don't
Yeah,
want.
I know. Well, and Green Bay is a legacy team. They're a huge market.
And they have a huge
Yeah,
fan base
yeah.
and all of that, yeah. So they're okay with the NFC matchup, I think, but they're praying and hoping and praying that the AFC comes
Yeah,
up.
we know they are.
Case-
We know they are.
Yeah. Get those refs ready to make
Yeah.
those bad pass interference
Yeah,
calls.
exactly. Oh, that's roughing the quarterback. The quarterbacks, they're on defense. How are you calling? All right, guys, let's wrap this thing up. Good talking some football. I'm gonna be excited to see what.
The dog is very
Yeah, I'm gonna
excited.
be
Hey,
excited to see
shut
what
up.
what we see with this front office going forward, though.
Absolutely. Don't forget about our big interview
Yes.
next week. So
Yes,
stay
we have a
tuned.
super secret big interview next week. Don't miss that. It's only going to be a couple minutes of the show.
It's Joe Montana.
Yeah. Big get. We got to work.
It's not Joe
No,
Montana.
not Joe Montana. But we also got to work Rick Snyder to see if he can get
Okay,
us Marty
it's
Herney
OJ. I promise it's OJ Simpson. That's who we
from
got.
prison.
He's not in
So
prison
he been
anymore.
out.
He's
Yeah, he
free-
been out
free
doing
man.
fantasy football on Twitter for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was still
He got
in
released.
trouble for
He
the
served
whole.
his- no, he served his sentence in Vegas for the armed robbery thing, and he's a free man. So I called him, said, "Juice, will you come on the show?" And he agreed. So
He actually
get ready
he
for
actually
O.J.
tweeted
Simpson
at us.
next week.
That's why I thought you saw it, Alex, but you didn't say anything.
I did not see that. If you did, yeah. All right, guys. We'll talk to our big interview sometime this week, and then we'll have a show for people in a week from now. Other than that, I hope everyone enjoys the championship games. Bye.